Hi, my name's Dean Hiller, and I work for Buffalo Software on the Energy Databus project for the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And today I'm going to show you a new feature that was added recently called Datastreams. I'm going to use the Databus demo website actually. If you've already registered, you'll actually have access. You'll have the password already. If you haven't, you can Google Energy Databus, and it's usually the first link in Google, and you can go register, and it will email you the login and password so you can get in and fool around without having to install the software yourself. This is free software, so you can go to GitHub and download it and install it yourself if you want to as well. And in the future, we may do some YouTube videos on how to install it to make that easier. But there's documentation up on buffalosw.com as well. So I'm going to sign in here, and then I'm going to head over to the My Databus tab, and there's a sub-tab, sub-menu item, Data Streams. This was just added. We're going to create a stream here. First thing is we're going to add a table data source, and I need a table name, so I'm actually going to right-click on Databases. I'm going to open this in a new tab, click on Demo Database, and I'm going to grab this first one here and copy that. Insert that right there. For this one, we're actually going to spline this data, so I'm going to call this the spline version. And then we're going to actually hit this plus, and we're going to add a spline. And for my spline, I'm going to spline every hour. The interval is in milliseconds, so sometimes you have to calculate that out. You don't really need to worry about buffer size. Max to stop splining is basically a thing where if you don't have enough raw data points, it will insert gaps into the data. So on your chart, you'll actually see a break in the line where maybe your device was offline or something like that. Epic offset you generally don't need to worry about, but you can use it for like a time zone offset and whatnot. Generally, I just set the interval. So let's go on here. So now I have my data running into a spline, and then I'm going to have it run into an aggregation pipe. And when I'm changing these menu items, you'll notice this description changes as well. And this module basically is a nice module where I can feed many streams into it. See, it has this nice add child. And I don't know if you've been noticing, but I keep clicking these pluses. You can also click the minus, which will delete this one single node here. If I click this minus, we'll delete this node here. So it's pretty easy to edit this. I'm going to add a child here. We're going to do another table data source here. This time, I'm going to do the same table. So it's going to read from the same table, but I'm not going to spline it. So here we're just going to compare the raw data to the spline version of that data. And then for grins, I'd like to also add a time average one as well. And again, we want this to be every hour. And so the time average module down here, I still don't have a data source feeding into it, so I'm going to click Add Child here. And again, I want the same table. You don't have to use the same table, of course. You can use different tables and compare tables against each other. We have some math modules that are coming very shortly as well. So by the time you download this, you may see more menu items than my version. Of course, we don't update the demo as much either, so you may actually want to install it and see if there's new modules, or just ask the emailing list. So this one I'm going to call time average. We also have a linear interpolated one too, so I might as well be complete and add the linear interpolation here. Again, I want it to go every hour, and we want to add the same table. In the output column, we'll call it linear, and there we go. So now we got 4 data sources. 3 of those are feeding into another module, and then all 4 of those then feed into my aggregation pipe. And I could add some more stuff here if I wanted to, but I think this is good enough for the demo. So let me click Stream Complete. Now I have a few choices here if I just wanted to get raw data, but I actually want to create a chart and see what this looks like. So let's create a chart. I'm going to use the 3-axis built-in charts. You could possibly buy more charts. There should be more charts coming in the future. It really depends on what people are adding and whatnot. Because we have a charting framework in the Databus, so it's very easy. You actually just drop in a single file and it automatically adds it to that menu. So I'm going to call this Dean's Test. And notice the URL is already filled in. That came from that whole Datastream stuff we did. Now we only need one access for this because all the time ranges are the same. The reason you might want 3 accesses is you might have something like it's temperature and it's from 0 to 100, and then you might have something in like kilovolts, and it's 0 to 1,000,000 volts or something like that, and it will throw off your scale for temperature, and temperature will look like it's at 0. So instead you can add accesses here, and if you add some in the next screen, this pull down over here will actually contain the list of accesses, so you can set up different series with different accesses. So anyways, my time column is time. Series 1, I'm going to use spline because that was the very first one we did. Series 2, we use raw data. This is mislabeled. We'll be fixing that in the future. It should say series 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Spline, raw data, time average. And then finally, linear. So we're going to graph all 4 of those against time. Click next here. Now I could do a date range, and notice this software is not specifically for date range based time series stuff. We could actually go to 0 based time, and in that case I could be reading off an oscilloscope, upload it in, and I'd use this 0 based time instead. I'm not going to fiddle with that. I'm just going to be lazy and say, hey, I want the last endpoints. The last endpoints is great if you don't know if you have any data or whatnot. It's a great first test before you actually use a date range, because sometimes you use a date range and you won't see any data because there's no data in that range. So let's create the last 1,000 data points. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to do that I'd like to do. One of these lines is white, so I'm gonna go back, actually modify chart. It keeps all my settings as I click through it, so I want to go back to this one and change it to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. These are the colors of the lines, so I can easily change the colors of the lines. It's not a great chart. And that's hex. You can Google color and hex if you want to change that. So there we go. Now I have my graph. Let me zoom in here, and we'll look at kind of the differences between the few graphs that we have going on. I'm going to zoom into this one. Okay, so now we have a green line, which you can barely see behind the black line because that linear interpolation. In fact, linear interpolation is kind of interesting. The raw data is the blue line. Sorry. So the raw data is the blue line, and you'll notice our legend up here, it only has the raw data in it right now because for this specific time at 13:38, there's a raw data point, but we were splining, time averaging, and linear interpolating every hour. So once I come closer, hopefully here on 2 o'clock, you'll notice there's no raw data for 2 o'clock, but now we have a spline value of 1,981, time average value of 1,993, and a linear interpolated value of 1,986. And as we continue on here, you see some more raw data. And you finally get to 3 o'clock. You see the spline, the time average, and the linear. The time average is really good for when, so for this hourly data, time average usually isn't what you'll typically do just because we're really only time averaging what? Let's see, between 2:30 and 3:30 to get the 3 o'clock point. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have like 4 data points, which isn't too bad in this case. Sometimes, though, if you're time averaging, you may end up with no data points in that time window, which isn't, you probably don't want to be using time average in that case. So usually time average will be rolling up to, a day or something you want to time average. And then for linear, a lot of times, and splined, those are really, really similar algorithms. Spline just fits a curve, whereas linear just takes the 2 points and draws a line between them and then figures out what the value would be if it was at 3 o'clock. And so that kind of aligns your data. The reason you need to do this is because when you have multiple sensors all putting data in the database, a lot of times the times don't line up. So these algorithms here, time average, linear, and spline, allow you to align the data on one stream, align the data on another stream, and then you can do math on those and add them up or do much easier comparisons and whatnot. So that's why that was done. Now, after I have my chart, I can do some more interesting stuff here. So I can go back. I can actually modify the input data. There's other modules we have here. Let's see. This is our demo machine is not the best. If I was on production, this would be a lot faster, but I wanted to use the demo machine so you could actually use the same system. Oh, there we go. I don't know what. Wait. So, did my network just go down? Databus demo. What's going on here? Okay, I'm not sure what went on there. We're back online. Sometimes the network, the wireless network on this floor has some issues, so it might have been that. I was having issues earlier this morning. I wouldn't worry about it. One really good thing that this reminds me to bring up is our URLs are basically all your information was saved in our URLs. So you'll notice that even if the server were to be restarted, I could actually go to this URL and I pick up right where I left off. Also, I could give this URL to a friend and they could continue right where I left off. Not only that, let's say I accidentally delete this. Every time I'm doing this, it's doing an action and redirecting me to another URL, which is slightly different. Delete this and I kind of get upset. I'm like, crap, I want to undo all that. Well, the undo is actually just going to give you a message that says hit the back button. And the reason that is because all the information is stored in the URL. So by hitting the back button, I'm undoing all my deletes now. So as you can see, all my stuff is back to the way it was, and if I head back again, I end up going back to the chart. So that makes it very nice. And also, if you want to save to edit it later, it's going to say the same thing. It's going to say, hey, just bookmark the URL. So you can save this URL. In Chrome to bookmark, I hit the star. I bookmark it. I come back to it later. I can pick up right where I left off. So you could be in the process of doing like a big one and not worry about it if you have to go off somewhere else. Just save that URL and you'll be good to go. So next, what I want to do is I want to actually modify this a bit. Let's take this spline value and let's pretend there's data spikes. Or actually, let's take the raw data. And let's pretend there's a data spike. So in a lot of the sensors, sometimes they'll spike up to 1,000,000 when the only valid values are 0 to 1,000 or something like that. So what I'm going to do here on the raw data is I'm going to add a range clean. And I'm going to say, you know what, I know this can't go below 0. And I know this can't go above 1,000. I'll go next. Okay, so now we have a range clean on the raw data. We're going to click Stream Complete. We're going to create a chart again, and it saves all my previous chart settings. So it saved the chart that I was using before. I'm going to click Next. It saved my title. It saved my access and the colors. Saved all this, so I don't even have to worry about this. I can just whip through it. Click Next. Finally, click Create Chart. Now you'll notice the raw data, the blue line again. Let's zoom in here. But you'll notice it's not spiking anymore. So the raw data now is coming up here and it's going above, but it's dropping all the data points that were above 1,000. And so this makes it nice so I can just simply clean my data out and have very valid data before I start to do my analysis. And so basically, let's actually continue on and add this to my dashboard. This is something I haven't tried, so hopefully this works out of the box. Dean's test right there, and then we go to dashboard, and I will set it in the first quadrant, and I will click save, and there's my dashboard in the first quadrant. This is one of the charts that doesn't work so well in a quadrant, so we could actually choose one of the other charts. If you have a chart like this that you do want to fix, you can actually click on it and come in here and actually let me just go back to a URL. Let me go back to the original chart. Again, you can use the back button a lot. So now that I'm back at the chart, I can just modify this chart. So let me modify this chart to the basic line chart, which this is a single line chart, but it's nice to use sometimes. And let's use it with just the raw data. Let's create that chart. This chart works very well in a quadrant. So let's add this one to the dashboard. I didn't rename it, so let me go back and rename this one. Let's modify this chart again. We'll call it Dean's Better Test. Next, create chart. Here we go. Now I'll add this one to the dashboard. The name is Dean's Better Test. Go into our dashboard. Let's put that in the first quadrant. Go to our dashboard. And that looks much better. Now, of course, and when you click on, what's nice about this version of the chart is here it doesn't have a zoom function. You can print PDF and whatnot over here. But if you go to Dean's Better Test on the left side here, you end up with a zoom function when you actually go dive into the data. I think that concludes this YouTube video. We'll probably be publishing more of these. Maybe our next ones might deal with doing multiple data sources and whatnot. There's plenty of other features in Databus that we haven't shown, and hopefully we'll put some more videos out. Please let us know if we get some good feedback. We'll gladly add some more videos and have some fun with Databus. Thanks a lot.